Well, we've become a banana republic anyway because we dismissed the southern border. You can't go to Winco or Walmart or any of these big box stores unless you speak Spanish any longer. So now we're going to have a government that operates like those governments south of the border. 934, Bill Colley with you on Top Story on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. And that means, obviously, that some people get away with it because of who they happen to be. And it's a slap in the face to the founding values of this country. 67 right now. You wonder if Comey was under some sort of pressure from the White House to actually allow her to skate. What did he get out of this? And what sort of promises are made for him? He was on the federal bench for many, many years. Perhaps someone is saying, James, you'd make a wonderful Supreme Court justice. We'll never know, will we? I do want to remind folks the summer heat, we experienced some of that, of course, over the last couple of weeks, is here and going to be with us likely right up through the month of September. And of course, if you have issues with an air conditioning unit, could be working fine, but you have to have it serviced every now and then. To avoid problems in the future, call the professionals at Ramsey Heating and Electric. And of course, they can make sure that you have a great summer by doing the job right the first time and making sure it stays that way. Ramsey Heating and Electric is located at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley, or give Ramsey Heating and Electric a telephone call, 678-0459. That's Ramsey Heating and Electric. They sell warm winters and cool summers. Ramsey Heating and Electric. You're up next. You're on the air on KLIX.
Hey, good morning, Bill. We got the biggest, well, probably one of the biggest criminals in the world right now running for president in the United States. If you look at what happened with this constitutional carry thing here in Idaho, Butchwater didn't want to sign that, but he did because he was closer to the people, being a governor of the people of the state. You got Texas wanting to secede. You got Northern California, a number of other states wanting to secede. I don't think anybody needs to secede. I think what we need to do is have this government disappear. The states are big enough to take care of themselves, is what I'm saying.
They definitely are. I mean, it's a much different situation than in 1776 or even in 1780, 87 and 1791. Thank you much for the telephone call, sir. We could definitely, you could do that on your own, and you could take Eastern Washington, Eastern Oregon, Northern California, perhaps Utah, Wyoming, and Montana. We could all make one great big superstate in this part of the country and do just fine. You're up next. You're on the air with Bill Colley on Top Story.
Good morning, Bill. Well, when you're talking about the energy situation, I have a friend over in Alliance, Nebraska, and it's kind of coal central. And the number of coal trains heading east is just down tremendously. And of course, the coal companies in Wyoming are going bankrupt. And, when's this going to end? And if people don't get behind Trump, regardless of his weaknesses, but Hillary will absolutely decimate what's left of this republic.
There will be no religious freedom. We will have no way to heat and cool our homes. We will have. What we're looking at is just devastating. She will move all of our jobs overseas. There's got to be an end brought to all of this.
Well, the whole thing is all about the elitists, of which Hillary and Obama are a part of, want this one world government, and they've got to bring us down to third world status. So we're rationing energy like the third world countries. And, over in Africa, because they will not allow them to develop their hydro and so forth, they bring in vaccinations. In those clinics, they open them up, vaccinate people, but as soon as the heat gets too hot in the vaccination where they have to keep it cool, they have to close the clinic to put all of the energy to refrigerate the vaccines. And that's coming to this country, folks. If we don't wake up pretty fast and just realize Hillary is not just a liberal progressive, she's evil. I mean, the number of bodies that are associated with Bill and Hillary is over 4 dozen. It's unbelievable. People that just have mystery death after mystery death and have a suicide, but the suicide gun's in another room, things like that. It's been just unbelievable criminal activity. Those 2 boys apparently saw something in Mena, Arkansas, and they got run over by a train. Oh, right. I mean, it goes on and on and on. And now I'm sure they went to the FBI director and said, um, if you really want to keep your breathing going, maybe you better just do a pass on Hillary, because that's the way they operate. They operate like the mafia,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
And I thank you for the call. In fact, Bill Clinton, growing up in Hot Springs, Arkansas, was exposed. That was a mafia playground. It was their wintertime playground. Where do you think he learned all of this? Grant Loebs made a comment to me one day. He was off air. He was just getting ready to leave, and we were talking about the Clinton crime family. And you got to remember, Grant Loebs worked for many, many years on Capitol Hill for Republicans and spent a lot, and briefly in the Reagan White House. But he says, in Washington, it is a well-known fact that the Clintons are devious and evil people. And then I had a senator, in fact, Tom Carper of Delaware. Yesterday he gave a speech in support of Clinton because that's what he's told to do. But he once told me off air that we were dealing with a very slimy group of creatures in that Clinton crime family. So there's a Republican saying it, there's a Democrat saying it. And folks, this is the woman the media wants to be our next president. The Drudge Report has a simple headline: Magic? She's cleared. Somebody in Washington waved the magic wand and said, don't worry, don't worry. All of that corruption and criminality, that can just be washed away with just it's like a Moses waving the fig leaf, right? You've got the President of the United States calling the shots. Because he doesn't want Hillary Clinton soiling the seats on Air Force One when they go out campaigning. Oh, you elect her, you can all marry horses, cows, and pigs next year, and the economy will continue to tank. But don't worry, there's some food stamps for you over there who are lazy folks. Maybe you belong to a labor union that's just perfect for you. We'll just keep printing more. I have this from Investors Business Daily, a guest editorial by a writer named Scott S. Powell. Scott Powell, not really sure who he is other than it says a senior fellow at Discovery Institute in Seattle and managing partner of Remington Rand. So a little bit of a pedigree going on here with this writer. And he says this: General David Petraeus was fined $100,000 and sentenced to 2 years probation for providing his personal notebooks containing classified details to his biographer, although no classified information was ever exposed. Hillary Clinton's email server containing more voluminous classified and top-secret information was reportedly breached and exposed by notorious Romanian hacker Guccifer and by the Russians, who have 20,000 Clinton server emails in their possession. So Comey can't easily give Secretary Clinton a pass and at the same time be true to his oath of office. The country is now at the edge of an abyss, the writer says, from years of obfuscation, unaccountability, subterfuge, and law evasion by the Obama White House that have numbed much of its citizenry into an acceptance of government corruption and abuse of power. Resetting Americans' trust in government needs to start with holding people in high office, like Hillary Clinton, accountable. But there is another reason this step is necessary. Hillary Clinton, he writes, has been an integral part of the Clinton Foundation, which is unprecedented in size and global scope, as an influence-peddling political slush fund. According to the Foundation's own recent tax returns, just 10% of expenditures go to charitable grants, with the bulk of the balance being spent on salaries, benefits, lavish travel, and conference organizing. The record shows that the Clinton Foundation took large contributions from several business magnates who soon thereafter received clearance for controversial international business deals. Saudi Arabia contributed $10 million to the Clinton Foundation before Hillary became Secretary of State. A few years later, the Hillary Clinton State Department formally cleared the largest single sale of military aircraft to the Saudis. Powell goes on to write the most plausible explanation for Clinton circumventing long-standing federal rules on secure communication, and for her insistence on implementing a private email server was simply to conceal a conflict of interest in continuing a role in the Clinton Foundation while also serving as Secretary of State. It is instructive that Secretary Clinton's top aide, Huma Abedin, simultaneously on payrolls of both the State Department and the Teneo Group, an influence peddling consulting operation founded by a Clinton confidant. Additionally, a private email server would protect disclosure of fundraising activities for Hillary Clinton's anticipated run for president. As the FBI investigation nears its completion, Comey can find solace in the words of the 26th president, Theodore Roosevelt, who declared, quote, "We cannot afford to differ on the question of honesty if we expect our republic permanently to endure. Honesty is not so much a credit as an absolute perquisite to efficient service to the public. Unless a man is honest, we have no right to keep him in public life. It matters not how brilliant his capacity." Unquote. 736-0300. 736-0300. And you're listening to News Radio 1310, KLIX, newsradio1310.com, 67 and 12 minutes away from 10 o'clock. You're up next. All right. Guess we answered his question. 736-0300. Hillary Clinton skates, even though the FBI director said she had multiple servers and that there were perhaps hundreds of these emails that were viewed by foreign powers, enemies, if you will. Hillary Clinton skates, and he recommends no prosecution. As if he can say that. He's supposed to collect the evidence. The prosecutor makes the decision, and he has now given a recommendation that Loretta Lynch turn her nose up and walk away. You're up next. You're on the air.
Yeah, morning, Bill. I'm certainly not a fan of Obama and certainly not a fan of the Hildebeest. But the thing that's put more coal companies out of business than anything else is called fracking and cheap natural gas. That's a sad fact. I mean, they certainly are applauding that, but natural gas prices are about 50% of what they used to be, and that's due to the fracking boom.
Anybody out there with a comment about Clinton this morning, please feel free to chime in about Comey and Clinton and the investigation. You're up next. You're on the air. Wow, somebody having a tough time getting in on that particular line. You know what we should do is we should put a couple of a big string and then just install tin cans in everybody's homes. Some days it might work better. You're on the air on KLIX.
Good morning, Bill. You know what I think with Hillary and everything else is they all need to belong in jail. They all need to be out of office. And I think we need to put some form of clause in there when you stand up, and I don't care if you put your hand on a Bible or whatever, and say that you're going to uphold the Constitution. The first time you try to circumvent the Constitution, you get impeached. It's as simple as that.
I don't know how else you'd get rid of these people, other than roll tanks down the street in Washington and tell them to leave, and no one really wants to see that.
No one wants to, but it is heading that way. And the only reason it's heading that way, and I know there's going to be a lot of people that disagree, is slowly but surely we have peeled away from the Constitution. The Constitution was to prevent all this stuff. But what we did not, or the founders did not foresee, is that all of them would become so corrupt that be in bed with each other to keep their own power.
Well, they did have some warnings about it, and I thank you for the call. But I don't think they could foresee just how this wedding, if you will, of all of these different elitist groups, and then that notion that they can hold on to power and continue to hold on power by these associations, how corrupting that was going to be. It is such a grand scope now. I don't think that they could envision that 240 years ago. We have another caller with us. Caller, you're up next. You're on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com.
Good morning. How are you?
Well, I'm wonderful, but what's on your mind?
I was trying to explain July 4th and Independence Day to my 5-year-old last night as we were watching the fireworks show, and it was really depressing to think of how low America has sunk to this stage, and then to give me the news that Hillary Clinton's pretty much going to get a walk on all the email stuff, which is no surprise. But it really bothers me that our country is so screwed up that here a few years back we will spend millions and jillions of dollars and all this effort to try to prove that Barry Bonds did steroids and Roger Clemens did steroids playing a game of baseball, but we won't put that same effort into hanging somebody that's tearing down our country.
That's because
thanks for your show.
Hey, thank you. That's because people in Congress can sit there and pontificate about, Barry Bonds corrupting our youth. Mark McGuire corrupting our youth. Senator, the camera's off. Hey, guys, can I get an autograph? Senator, the camera's back on. Oh, bad, bad baseball players. Bad, bad corrupting baseball players. Camera's off again. Say, guys, can you get me some tickets? 9:53. Bill Colley with you on Top Story on News Radio 1310, KLIX, and newsradio1310.com at 67. By the way, fracking, while it has definitely dropped the cost of oil and natural gas, I used to live pretty close to the ports of both Wilmington and Philadelphia. Actually, throw in Baltimore, too. I lived within, a short drive of all of those places. And I used to be able to drive by the ports, and I would see rail cars loaded with coal being shipped overseas. Our adversaries and even our allies overseas are not doing much fracking. So while it has reduced the cost of energy in this country, there's still a huge market for coal in other parts of the world if we could just get it to them. 9:53. But that's a subject for another day. We're talking Clinton crime family corruption today. You're up next with about 5 minutes to go in the program. Go ahead.
Yes, it is. We all expected that she'd walk, and but everybody that cares even a little knows what a railroad job this is to the people. And see, when you spend the weekend talking to your friends and family about what's going on in this country, so many of them think, well, there's nothing we can do, or they don't care. And you see, again, a government of the people, by the people, for the people won't work if we don't have enough people who care. And so you become exasperated. And when your children say to you, I just don't know, they just become depressed about their future. And you say, can we wake up? Can enough of us care? And I don't know. And there's so many varying degrees of understanding and political correctness, and people are so afraid of what somebody else is going to think about them because they have an opinion that disagrees with them. We are in such a mess. I just hope for a miracle. Thanks, Bill.
Hey, thank you much for the telephone call, sir. We have another caller with us. You're up next. You're on the air on News Radio 1310 KLIX. Go ahead.
Morning, Bill. There was no doubt in my mind they should get it passed. This is the same FBI that shot a rancher dead in Oregon, right, that we're talking about? And agents from the FBI and the way they operate and are run. So there's no doubt in my mind that they're corrupt to the core. But I do hope that this is just one more nail. And why Donald Trump, even though he's not perfect, he is exactly what we need, and why people are frustrated. And I hope a few people wake up today and see how far the left can get away with it. And we got to stand together and at least give it a chance.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Lavoy Finicum never killed anybody in his life. The Bundys have never killed anyone, at least they didn't deserve it. And we don't know of anyone. I mean, let's make that clear. We don't know of anyone. And yet, Hillary Clinton botches Benghazi and 4 people are dead. Media says there's nothing to see here, as I said at the top of the show today, because media was complicit in amplifying the lie because they wanted to drag Barack Hussein Obama over the finish line one more time. So they're as corrupt themselves. And they've been driving this story saying, there is no need for an indictment here. Oh, there's nothing to see here. Oh, you white racists out there. Oh, you dingy Republicans. You just don't know any better. They've been doing this because they are now part. Today I saw a story in the Idaho Statesman. I printed it up. I didn't get to it. It's 14 pages of drivel about how wonderful Muslim refugees are for Idaho and how they just want their liberties and freedoms. And you rotten SOBs over there on the American right. Media in this country is as corrupt as the Clintons, and it works hand in glove with them. They are fellow travelers. They are out to try to remake this country. And if you look at the people who are running most of your major media institutions, they all have some sort of strange sexual proclivity. Or they want to sit around and do nothing but get stoned all of the time. And they don't like America. They tell you that America was bad because people were people were enslaved all over the world, for crying out loud. The Irish were enslaved in the early days in this country. They were being put on boats and coming over here. Yet they're not demanding reparations. The United States was one of the few countries when they had that three-fifths compromise. One of the few countries actually in the world, if you look at it this way, that actually recognized that these people were more than just chattel. At least they were human to some degree. And yet the American left keeps saying, hey, we're sorry. The United States of America saved civilization, not once, but twice, and likely 3 times if you count the Cold War in the last century. And yet the American left still wants to destroy it. It wants to destroy your Christian faith. It wants to destroy our schools. And yes, indeed, it has a heck of a head start. And I don't know that there's any way we are ever going to be able to turn it around. Rush Limbaugh is coming up next following the news from Fox at 10 o'clock. Sean Hannity following the news this afternoon. Well, it is vacation week for a lot of these guys. So I'm saying this and just thinking the shows will be there. And then Glenn Beck's program following 4 o'clock news today. God willing, and the creek don't rise, they'll allow me to come back here and do this all over again tomorrow morning between 8 and 10 o'clock. Have a great day, folks. Well, try.